Hello and welcome to The Garden Next Door. Today we're talking about how we're making great changes to our garden, and that means changing a lot of things and making a lot of really large updates that are taking a lot of blood, sweat, and elbow grease. So let's talk about them. Now, if you've been following us for a while, you know that we've been using raised beds that are made out of Douglas fir, but they really have not withstood the test of time. And as we close out the garden this fall, we're starting to get a little more time in our back pockets that we can actually start to make some big changes in the garden. And one of those really big changes is we are now actually changing up the way that we are gardening. We're getting out of our raised beds and we're going to be getting into the ground doing the no-till method. We're doing this for a few reasons. First off, our Douglas fir beds have just really not withstood the test of time. They're warping, they're disintegrating on the inside. Let me grab a board and show you. Now, we've been using Douglas fir and it is just not standing up to the test of time. I definitely think I would have used a different material if I were given the choice, and I do talk a little bit about this in another video, so I will link it down below. But it is just deteriorated, especially any of the boards that are inside facing the dirt have just been eaten alive by bugs, by moisture, and it's just not really a long-term solution. Now, whenever you do a raised bed out of wood, you're going to need to know that you are building it out of an organic material that is eventually going to break down. And that's oftentimes why you choose to do wooden garden beds, is environmentally, it's not making that great of an impact, and you're using an organic material that isn't going to then leach into your garden soil and thus your vegetables. But you oftentimes are then going to need to repair and fix and make updates, and our garden is huge. We do not have the amount of money to keep redoing it every couple of years, which is why, and probably the main reason why, we're going into the ground. But also for many other reasons, being that the no-till method is gonna be a much better way to be, quote unquote, a lazier gardener. If you get your no-till method set up correctly, you shouldn't have to water, you shouldn't have to weed, and you shouldn't have to be in the garden fixing everything all the time. You should be able to be in the garden enjoying your plants and the growing. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to set up the garden beds the first time for success. Here is one of the garden beds that we've broken down, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, but we'll show you what some of the wood looks like. I use the hugelkultur method to build out these beds, meaning I basically took the beds and I filled them with organic materials like twigs, logs, leaves, anything like that to help just fill it. Honestly, dirt is expensive and it's really, really heavy to haul it from a truck that drops it all the way over there to the back of this garden. So being able to use things like logs that are weirdly not as heavy as dirt in a wheelbarrow made it a lot easier. And after 3 years, a lot of them have broken down a significant amount. There's a lot of buggies inside, so I'll try to find one right now and show you exactly what it looks like, but you can see it's just broken down a lot. So if you decide to use the hugelkultur method, this can really be a great example for how to fill your garden beds. The con with using the hugelkultur method is if you are going to do root vegetables like carrots, it can be quite restraining on the carrots because it has to go through dips and turns of your logs. It oftentimes is going to create the funkiest looking carrot that is sometimes unusable because how are you supposed to peel it? I don't know. I can't figure it out. So I definitely think that was definitely a con of using this method, and probably something that would make me steer away from it in the future if I knew I was going to plant a root vegetable in it. Also, when doing things like potatoes, sometimes they would get lodged underneath a log, and they were really hard to get as well. So kind of a con there. Going in the ground, we are still going to be keeping a large amount of our raised beds. So almost all the ones that you see that are still out here, we will be keeping. We are going to get rid of this asparagus one here. We just need to figure out what we want to do with our asparagus. So we're letting that completely die back so we can transplant it somewhere else. But the rest of our garden beds, a lot of them are just one stack, so they're around 1 foot high instead of 2 feet high, which means they haven't decayed as much, and those are actually going to be our flower beds for more cut flowers because they were just such a hit at our farm stand, and we loved having them in our house all summer and giving them to friends. Okay, so let's break down how we're doing this. Now, if you're going from a raised garden bed to the no-till method, basically what we did was just take down our raised garden beds, leaving it here, and then we're forming long lines throughout. I've already done 5, but I'll take you through the entire process. And the first step, I do have mulch in this section of the garden, but if you're starting on grass, you can also do this. I suggest just doing a nice mow before, so you're just not dealing with unwieldy grass. And the first step is cardboard. This is a nice organic material that you can be using to basically block out weeds. Depending on where you are, depending on what your humidity levels are, your temperatures, the cardboard will deteriorate at a different pace. We are in the fall. By the time spring comes, this will most likely have deteriorated. If you are in a very cold place, like Colorado, it might take a lot longer for your cardboard to deteriorate. So you might not want to use that as a base in some of the areas, or you might want to just really plan ahead for that. Maybe you're just going to go straight onto the grass, or you could even choose to dig it up or something like that. We have a pretty big garden, so you might wonder, how did you get so much cardboard for your garden? Now, we love Amazon just like the next person, but to fill a garden this big would have been really hard with just our boxes. So what I do really suggest is going to a grocery store or a big box store. We actually went to Home Depot, and we conveniently were there on a day when they were unpacking a bunch of things, and we just ran around and asked if we could have their cardboard. We only took any of the brown cardboard. You want to stay away from cardboard that has a lot of printing on it because it's not going to break down, and a lot of that printing can be harmful chemicals that you don't want to be leaching into your ground and thus your garden and thus your food. What's also really nice about this is Amazon boxes might be pretty small, where nice big Home Depot boxes, this one I think was from Adore, pretty large and less work for you. Okay, so our first step here is just laying down our cardboard base. Okay, so I'm laying this cardboard down for anywhere there's going to be a garden bed as well as a walkway. We are doing long garden beds along this back section, but if you were making this smaller, you would do the same thing, lining the entire area that you want your garden to be in cardboard, and then we'll come across and we'll do what it will look like on top. It is now a few days later and a little chillier out, so I am dressing it accordingly. But we are still working on this same mission. So I actually was able to finish all of the beds except for one so that I could walk through how to do this. So we are now at the step. I've lined out all the cardboard along it, and next step is going to be lining our wood logs along the beds. So I have a nice big container, a wheelbarrow full, and I'm going to lay these along the edges. Now you can see I'm actually walking on wooden boards. This is not necessary. I'm not telling anyone to do this. We actually just didn't have a great way of disposing all of our wooden boards, and we want to make sure that we are mitigating as many weeds as possible. So we did lay those wooden boards as walkways, which we're then going to mulch on top. Given they have already started to decay, since they were the Douglas fir on the back of, or on the actual garden beds, they're already starting a lot of that decaying process here. So I'm hoping that they decay pretty quickly and it doesn't really intrude on the garden too much. Now all I'm doing is laying my logs. I also did this last section over here. We actually transplanted all of our asparagus. This will be all of our asparagus bed. And then that will make sure that we have a nice perennial along the edge that we don't have to worry too much about. And the best time to transplant asparagus is actually in the colder winter months. So what I'm doing with these logs is just laying them as a nice barrier. They will eventually decay. They're a nice organic material. They also already have, like I showed you before, a lot of them are already pretty much broken down. So they've already started a lot of that process. Once you've gone ahead and created the barrier for your area, we're going to fill in our garden section, which I'm standing in right now, with some nice compost. I'm actually going to be using the dirt that was already in our beds just because we're disassembling them and I'm not going to have any place else to move them to. So I'm just going to lay that in here. We want to do around 3 to 4 inches of nice compost. Now, if you're able to make your own compost, I always suggest making your own. You just don't know what is in a store-bought one, but if you do not have the ability to make your own, which we will go over how to make compost on this channel, and we already have some videos I'll link below. But if you don't know how to make your own, then you can always purchase it as well. We're gonna go ahead and just set this in here. Ooh, okay. Oh, this is very heavy. Okay, I guess this is as far as we're gonna go. Okay. We'll lighten it up a little. Now, you can use a rake. I don't know. I just think putting gloves in your hands is easier. I'll just use this dirt to level out the walkways because I'm not really dealing with a very straight area to begin with. Let's talk about timing. Right now, it is the beginning of November that I'm laying this out. So we are in the winter period of our garden. I love the late fall, early winter into winter because it's nice and cold outside. So doing manual labor isn't as bad because it's not super hot on you. You get a little color in the winter and it's downtime for the garden. You're not worrying too much about the other things that are happening in your garden. But you can be doing this at any time of the year. You can start gardening at any time of the year. I have so many guides on things you can be doing once you get started. And once you lay down a garden bed, that is just the beginning of a growing season. But if you're in the off season as well, it also is just gonna give you some time for the soil where you can actually be composting and layering on a lot of nutrients. During this time, instead of growing anything, I actually put a cover crop. I did peas and oats, which if you don't know what cover crop to do, I highly suggest peas and oats for really any area because they're really easy to kill off. And killing off a cover crop is probably one of the hardest aspects of a cover crop. A month ago, I was pretty good at the beginning on getting this one done, and I already have some beautiful peas and oats growing in here that are gonna add so much additional nutrients into the soil. And what's amazing about peas and oats is during the cold, they most likely will just die off. If your area gets cold enough, it will kill them off, and then you don't really have to do anything or worry about anything. You wanna make sure that you're doing this a good few weeks before your first frost date and before the ground freezes entirely, but making sure that you get them in, and then it starts to grow a little bit, so you'll still need to maintain watering your garden, but it will help make sure that you get in additional nutrients before our actual growing season in the spring. Okay, so let's talk about some of the amendments that we're going to do on top of the soil. So I actually have this Miracle-Gro sprayer. I'm not gonna be filling it with Miracle-Gro, but I'm gonna be using it to put on my other solutions. So I'm gonna undo it, and we're going to put in Soil Revitalizer. I will link all of this down below, but this is really gonna be improving soil health, and it makes it so that you can grow your entire garden or lawn, and it's gonna be great for trees, house plants, all of your garden items, and you just kind of dilute it with water in order to make it work. So this is really great to continue to spray onto your garden, especially in the spring, every 2 to 4 weeks. But we're gonna put it on right now to really create a foundation for our soil to grow off of. So I'm gonna fill this up with like half. And then the next one is fish emulsion. So this is a 511. It's, again, organic material, great for all of your plants. We put this on our trees, on our garden, and a little bit of this goes a long way. So I'll just do maybe like a few second pour. I just have like a very small hole in here. It smells really disgusting. I'm gonna warn you right now. But both these are great products to be using on your garden all year if you are an organic gardener. And then you just take your piece, stir it on, and spray. While I'm here, let's also talk about some other items that we're going to be adding on. So the next one, I actually need to order another bag of, but I already put this on all of my other garden beds, and I'll be adding some more on here. This is North Spore mushroom spawns. This is a wine cap mushroom. Now, it is an edible mushroom, so you will have another additional food source. But what's really great about the wine cap mushroom, and all you'll do is you'll kind of take it and sprinkle it along your beds as well as anywhere where your mulched walkways are going to be. But as you add on additional organic materials, it will continue to grow off of these, and it's really going to be a really good foundation for breaking everything apart. So it just creates a really great web ecosystem within the soil, within the mulch that you're going to be having on your sidewalks, and then you can kind of push that mulch into the bed, creating some additional organic material into your bed and continuing the growth of your beautiful garden. And this is just a great item you can be adding onto it. The last item here to note is our cover crop. So like I mentioned, we use oats and peas mixture. Just in a couple weeks, we already have it. It's a really easy cover crop to kill over, which is why I love it. And if you're just getting started with a cover crop, oats and peas are an amazing one to get started with because they are easy to grow, easy to kill, and they're gonna add in a lot of nutrients, and they're good for a lot of different zones. So it's not super dependent on which zone you're in. If you wanna do a larger investigation into your zone and which one's best and how to kill it, then I definitely suggest doing that. But if you're just getting started, oats and peas is an amazing starter, and it's gonna add all of the nutrients that your garden needs in order to continue to grow amazing crops year over year. And you can continue to do cover cropping every fall into winter or between different seasons. To finish things off, we're going to be adding a layer of mulch. Now the mulch is going to go in a few different places. One, we're going to be doing the walkways in mulch. If you don't have mulch or chips or whatever you want to call it, there is a system called Mulch Drop. It's free, it's in many different areas, or you can also call many different arborists or tree removal companies, and they will oftentimes have to pay to drop their mulch somewhere, so they're gladly to drop it at your place. Just make sure that you're telling them that you want clean mulch. You don't want there to be anything like poison ivy, hives, or any viruses that could have gotten onto the tree. Now, if this is an older mulch, something like this, which has pretty small particles here, this can be easily mulched on top of the beds in your garden. So because it's so small, the pieces here, we can actually use it on top of the dirt, on top of our compost. If you have bigger chunks, like these guys over here, this isn't really something you would want to put over your beds because the plants are gonna have a really hard time getting in or around this. So this thick of mulch is gonna be best for your walkways. And then once it starts to break down more, all we'll do is we'll just kind of scoot it over into our beds. But we can definitely use this for our walkways, and we definitely are. Now, if you're finding that all of your mulch is really big pieces here, like this guy had dropped off, then there are a few different other ways that you can mulch on top of your compost bed sections. You can be using straw. Now we are in fall, so you can also be using leaves. We actually got all of our leaves in one area, we blew them, and then we just rode over them with our drive-on lawnmower to break them up a bit so they weren't in such large chunks. And then all you do is spray on some water over it. This is when you can also be adding some of your soil revitalizer or some of your fish emulsion onto that. And this will help make the leaves stick down a bit. You can use grass clippings, but the thing is with grass clippings is they oftentimes will get really stuck together. So we have some grass clippings in it that's mixed in with leaves. I mean, it's fall over here. So you can see as I go into our big yard, there's a lot of leaves in there. So when he was mowing, he did just like a very short topping off of the grass and it mixed with some of that. All those organic materials are just going to be adding to the diversity in your soil come spring when we actually get these in the ground. Now, if you are doing this in the spring or summer, we definitely want to be choosing a material that we might have on hand, like straw, which you can actually purchase from a store. Just make sure when you get the straw that you're not getting any of the bits and pieces that might have the seed in it. If it has a seed in it, then you're just going to be essentially growing grass in your garden bed. It's going to be not fun because you're going to have a lot of weeding, and we want to be doing not that much weeding. But I actually have so much old mulch. I've had a pile sitting here for probably 6 months now. So a lot of it is pretty small. And if you haven't worked with mulch before, I definitely suggest one of these bad guys. It makes it so much easier at grabbing the mulch and putting it in. I'm gonna go ahead, bring this to the garden, but it has been so much fun transforming our garden. And whether you're doing raised beds, container gardening, urban gardening, or in-ground no-till, we have tested it all, we are building it all, and we're here every single week to tell you more about gardening tips, tricks. So follow along, subscribe if you aren't already a part of the channel, and give us a like, comment below what you think and what type of gardening you're doing, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.